¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Welcome, everybody. Let me just make sure we got everything going. All right. Welcome, everybody. We begin the week with some very interesting developments around the world. Michael Hassler, how's it going? With some interesting developments around the world. I guess one of the more notable ones is not just like the the alleged Chinese spy balloon, but also now this makes UFO number 3 that the Air Force decided that the government decided that they were going to take down. Very interesting. So I guess if anything comes about that, we'll definitely keep an eye out. But it seems like they simply just don't know what it is, but are hoping to learn more about that soon. Yep, it's them aliens. How much has this cost us now? I don't know. Factor in the cost of whatever the heck, probably a lot. Who knows what we'll end up finding with that. Finding out about that. 1 million per balloon? Yeah. How's it going, Echo Wrestle Dragon? Give me 1 second, folks. An insane amount that I'm sure could have been used for so much more. Yeah, but what if we find out that aliens are real? We still don't have healthcare. Aliens be running from us? True. One stop is all it takes for them to be like, nope. No, thank you. Let's move on out of here. All right, folks. We're a little bit pressed for time. Today, unfortunately, I had to stay longer than I wanted to at work, but we'll get there, folks. All right. I think we should probably start with this one. Let's use this as a jumping point.
That they are so backfooted by this. It is a sign of the times that they are so backfooted by this. I just don't remember a State of the Union where the Republicans are backfooted. I remember State of the Unions like under George W. Bush, where the Democrats were all like scrambling over. We're not soft on anything. We're tough. We're smart. That's what the Republicans are running around doing. Look at Kevin McCarthy runs to Fox and Friends in the morning. Yeah, I wonder if he and Frank Luntz actually drove each other to the relative studios. I wonder if Kevin McCarthy's at the CNBC studio and they're just pumping him in because he and Luntz just drove together out of the. You're familiar with Frank Luntz, aren't you? Well, vaguely. Vaguely. Guy won't clean his dishes.
Well, the president was trying to goat the members, and the members are passionate.
How's it going, Alio? Welcome. It's the Morton. Welcome. Afternoon, everybody.
About it. But the one thing the president was saying is something that he knew was not true. I just spent an hour with him. I've said it many times before. Social Security and Medicare are off the table. He tries to use that for a political ploy. But the one thing we need to be smart. He's trying to play politics with the debt ceiling.
Wait. He's trying to play politics with the debt ceiling? Wasn't it the Republican Party's idea that they were planning? In fact, I specifically remember that it was Kevin McCarthy's idea that they were planning to use the debt ceiling fight as a political bludgeon. I specifically remember Kevin McCarthy saying that. It's the classic bipedal. It is the. I need a T-shirt that says that. I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna make a T-shirt that just literally says every accusation is just a confession. That's it. Like I just literally need a T-shirt that says that. And it's okay because we'll get the context. Okay. We'll get the context. guess who's running out of ploys? The GOP. It's you and your house. It's you and your household budget. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, the government is not like a household budget, despite what the GOP thinks. I really do need I need a freaking t-shirt that says that. You know, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like get a basic t-shirt with like, you know, like the basic text that just says every accusation is just a confession in quotation marks, and then like GOP or something, I don't know. Or just leave it like that. Or just leave it like that. Despite what the GOP says, they know better. Yeah, that's true.
By not negotiating, by lying about our position. I want to be responsible. I want to be sensible. I want to sit down and work through this problem. Because, look, the Democrats raised the highest debt ceiling ever, and they blew through it in the shortest amount of time, and now they want it to come right.
Didn't, like, a quarter of all this nonsense, like, the pearl clutching, about the whole being fiscally responsible and whatever bullshit. Once again, every accusation is just a confession. The Republican president, Donald Trump, was the one who incurred like 25% of this.
Back to it. We need to be smart. Don't take the bait. Stay with the American public about what we want to do. Right. Curve this runaway spending that the president has been.
But a lot of it has been like because of Republican policies. Like, if you really want to do like what the American people want, if you're actually interested in doing what the American people want, then maybe I don't know, start creating plans for some kind of healthcare system. How about that? If you actually care about doing what the American people want, how about create a plan to get universal healthcare, universal college education? These are things that are highly popular. What about taxing the wealthy? That's extremely popular. That's strange. If the Republican Party, who now controls the House, is interested in actually doing what the American people want, then they should put forth bills like that. But no, of course not, because they're not actually interested in doing what the American people want.
Spending so much that.
The interesting thing, too, that I should add, there was another moment, actually, where Biden successfully bullied the Republicans on live national television to do something that they have refused to do. And that is when he said, like, look, I'm willing to negotiate with you on spending. He says, I won't negotiate on the budget ceiling because we've already spent that money.
The bot? Instead, they're chasing Hunter Biden's dog. True. Going after the things that really matter, bipedal. Not actually passing any bills? Nah, not any important bills anyways. Yeah, it's culture war stuff and what is the Rihanna gossip? What are they mad about now? That she got to perform in the halftime show at the Super Bowl? What's the problem now?
We can't have the government forfeit on our debt, but I'll negotiate with you. Just bring me your budget. And Kevin McCarthy sort of nodded at that moment. Do we have a clip of that? He started nodding at that moment. Was like, yeah, okay. They have been adamant that they're not going to do that in the budget ceiling negotiations. That McCarthy's not going to show up with any numbers. They want, and this is the if you're involved in any type of negotiations, everybody knows this. You don't want to be the first person to make the offer. You want the other person to make the offer. Because if Biden makes the offer first, he's negotiating against himself. McCarthy doesn't want to do this, and Biden basically just embarrassed him in front of the American public last night. And by the end, McCarthy was like, okay. He's not good at this.
Trump was insulting Rihanna on Truth Social. That's hilarious. 45 is mad way back at Riri. Why? Trump's just jealous because Rihanna is actually a billionaire. The term armchair critic has never been more relatable after Trump taking a swing at Rihanna's Super Bowl performance, all while overlooking the fact that he himself has presided over some of the most ludicrous blunders in the history of the NFL. Yeah, but like, what was he mad about? That, like, whatever. it's just funny at this point. Whatever.
This and the idea too, like, remember, their narrative about Joe Biden is he's an old man, he's ineffectual. And now they're complaining that he's being too, political and ruthless with them. They're all over the place with this. It really is.
Well, I mean, fascistic ideology necessitates, as part of its tenets, to be always essentially contradictory. Remember, the enemy is both strong and weak. The enemy is both liberal snowflake cucks, and also a nation destroying force. The radical left is going to destroy America, but also they're snowflake cucks and whatnot, whatever the heck they want to use. Yeah,
it is.
Biden's both like incompetent, both incompetent and impotent, and also strong, ruthless, and political. Like, whatever, dude.
I have parents who are Joe Biden's age. I worry about him making it to the election. Never mind, serving his presidency. But so far, the Republicans can't figure it out with him.
This after insulting far more than half the nation, which is already in serious decline with her foul and insulting language, Trump also wrote, and also for...
If you're looking to open a gold IRA, you're...
No. Stop it. Rihanna says F you to 45 at a public event. Is that what it is? That's hilarious. We can't help but be reminded of Trump's own numerous sports fiascos over the years, starting with his Super Bowl ad that he mistook the office of the president with an action movie trailer from the early 2000s. That's hilarious. No ad block? Not yet. Yeah, it's pretty funny. All right, so yeah, we kind of got the idea. So let's move into this article. Biden escalates fight over Social Security and Medicare, frustrating Republicans. Yeah. After President Biden pummeled the Republicans on Social Security and Medicare during his State of the Union, drawing shouts of outrage, and the party Republican leaders urged him to stop telling the Americans that the GOP wants to slash those retirement programs. Except, in numerous times on the record, they have stated and were just a skip and a hop from being just outwardly open about it. So this is just an outright lie from the Republicans. Let me pull up some good old clips if I can find it, or at least one, as an example.
to. And I just don't understand why we're a country that pays people who could go to work not to. And when I
how big a deal is that?
Look,
does that come away with the emergency measures coming off, or is it deeper?
Oh, considerably deeper. Because
okay.
And by the way, it pays you on both sides of the ledger, right? If you impose work requirements on all means-tested entitlement programs for working-age people, not for the disabled, not for seniors, but for working-age people, it's $1 trillion.
What do you think? What do you think Social Security disability is? What do you think Medicaid is? What do you think like Social Security and Medicare are? By definition, to even get those programs, either you must be disabled, and it's incredibly difficult to get Social Security disability. Either 65 and up to get Medicare, 65 and up, I think, to get Social Security. I think that's the age right now. So okay, yeah. How dare Sleepy Joe use their own words against them? Exactly.
In savings during the 10-year budget window.
This is in Medicaid and other.
This is in Medicaid and in food stamps.
In food stamps, sure. It's discretionary spending.
Yeah, those are the biggest. The biggest chunks are from the Obamacare.
Yeah, like by definition, you also need to be in dire straits to get food stamps. Most people that are in food stamps are working anyways, so fuck you. You want to take that away from people?
Medicaid expansion to able-bodied adults,
yes,
and to
Social Security and
it's over 400
Social Security and
billion
Medicare are off the table. But you're saying you're taking Medicaid and other aspects of discretionary spending.
If it was Matt Gaetz, I think that we do need reforms to Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, see, and like he's just saying it, like he's just saying it, and the Republican Party does basically agree with this point. That's their position.
I understand politically enough people.
But that can come later. That's not
going to happen now.
Right.
Medicaid.
And you don't need to have.
By the way, Medicaid should not be a sacred cow.
Big time.
And so, but it hasn't.
Yeah, Medicaid shouldn't be a sacred cow. The program that helps people that don't have like money for healthcare. Yeah, all those people can unequivocally. If it was up to Matt Gaetz, he would tell all those people to unequivocally get fucked. Because Matt Gaetz is a piece of shit. Social Security, SSI, and SSDI are different, and lawyers and bankers make deals with governments constantly. Yep. Well, yeah, SSI and SSDI are different. Now that pandemic emergency over, after this month, we're only going to get $23 a month. Sheesh.
Ben, you notice people don't talk about Medicaid.
No, it's always Medicare and Social Security, right?
Right. So with Medicaid, I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for savings. In SNAP, you can get over $400 billion in savings.
Yeah. So he's just outright saying it. They aren't serious about cutting the debt unless they're cutting the military. Yeah, but they're not going to touch that. No way. No way. What the F is $23 going to get me? Not much, unfortunately. Not much. If SNAP assistance is like $23 a month, like imagine having to make do with $23 a month and then being told by Matt Gaetz that we need to take a look at that and like start talking about cutting even that. Like how much of a freaking ghoul this guy is. And the Republican Party does agree with this point. Does agree with this point, by the way. Like imagine already the program the program already is pretty bad in terms of like pretty it's not enough. Like $23 a month is nothing. And then being told like, yeah, dude, you know what? You don't even deserve that. If you're poor, just get effed. That's basically what the Republican Party's position is. Now Medicaid and Medicare need investigations, not just fraud, but overhaul with the actual government and vendor contracts, not the consumer. Well, yeah, I mean, if there are any private interests in Medicare, which there are, all of that needs to go. And there should be a, ideally, a move to a universal system. But, you know. So yeah, this is just a flat out lie. They would, if given the opportunity, they absolutely would cut those programs. Absolutely. Then Biden paid a visit to Florida and did it again, exasperating the party and escalating a fight that poised to play out in Capitol Hill and in the 2024 presidential election. The president for a few weeks now has been falsely saying that there are people that want to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. Like, it's funny because like Biden's exact words were something to the effect of like, I don't think it's every Republican, and he was whatever. I'm just using his complete words. He said that it's not every Republican, nor do I think it's even the majority of them, but there are some who do want to cut Social Security and Medicare. There are some that want to take a sledgehammer to these programs. And here we have Matt Gaetz as an example. It's not just Matt Gaetz, by the way. There's Matt Gaetz literally on record. There's a video of him. There's a literal video of him. I mean, it's like the definition of gaslighting. You know, saying that, and acting as all angry, like, we would never do that. Why is he saying that? Well, because there's video of Republicans saying that. The president for weeks now has been falsely saying that there are people that want to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. It's been inaccurate for a long time. Not really. Republican platforms going back decades now have been about cutting Social Security and Medicare. It's always been an option for them. It's always been an option for them. Of course, they like to couch it as a way of being quote-unquote fiscally responsible or whatever bullshit rhetoric they want to, sugarcoat it with. But it's been a part of their platform for decades now at this point. So to all of a sudden have this like surprise Pikachu face as to where the president is getting this from is hilarious and gaslighting. The GOP bootstrap mentality, budget mindset, this household budget nonsense on TV, but no pay cuts or term limits for all politicians. Yeah, they wouldn't give themselves a pay cut. You want to talk about being fiscally responsible? How about shaving off a couple of those zeros you guys make? How about that? How about shaving off several zeros off the military budget? And last night, and you saw last night when he tried to pin it on his House Majority Leader, Steve Scalise told NBC News, one day after Biden's speech to Congress, I just hope he stops going around the country telling the falsehood because there's no truth to it. Even though, like, we literally just saw a video. Okay? Like, yeah, there's absolutely no truth to it. None whatsoever. As ironically, they go around spreading falsehoods about what Biden is saying. That's funny. Quote, we want to strengthen Social Security by ending a lot of those government checks to people staying at home rather than going to work. I'm sorry. Is that what Social Security does? I'm sorry. Is that what Social Security does? It just cuts government checks to people. Who do you think gets Social Security? Who do you think is the most overwhelming recipients of Social Security? And if you're actually interested in strengthening Social Security and strengthening that meager safety net, that meager safety net, then you would be in favor of Bernie Sanders' plan to lift the cap and tax the wealthy appropriately. So that Social Security can be strengthened. McConnell is now claiming that the cutting of Social Security was only a Rick Scott plan. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. So it's only a Rick Scott plan, even though we have Matt Gaetz talking about it. We had didn't not Mitch McConnell, didn't McCarthy also threaten to use the debt ceiling as a potential what is it called? Not wedge. But as potential leverage to see if he could get some concessions about Social Security and Medicare, and then had to backpedal. Yeah, dude, I freaking love it with these freaking clowns. Like, thank goodness that there's like literal video evidence of all of this in the 21st century, in the year of our Lord 2023. We can just refer to, like, a YouTube video, a clip, a article online that can be archived, a tweet that can be saved and archived in case these clowns decide to delete it, like the tweet they did about Kanye West, the House Judiciary Committee, that they deleted. But of course, the internet does not forget, and the internet does not forgive. Thank goodness, because all of this. Yeah, exactly. It's almost as if they forget that the internet exists. So thank goodness that we can just literally refer to them saying these things. Of course. The very next day at the University of Tampa on Thursday, Biden tore into a plan from Senator Rick Scott, Scottamore, saying that it would sunset Social Security and Medicare every 5 years. Right. And the reason for that, the reason why Rick Scott would want a plan to sunset Social Security and Medicare every 5 years is because maybe it'll eventually, I guess, in their heads, land on a time where they could just let it sunset. They just it just sunset. Sorry, poof, there it goes. He also went after Ron Johnson, who has labeled Social Security Ponzi scheme and called for restructuring it. Yeah, true. Quote, they were offended. Liar, liar, Biden mimicked. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has pushed Biden to back spending cuts, but said Social Security and Medicare should be exempted. Oh, now we're we're talking a different tune. That's interesting. There is no bill with GOP consensus to change these programs, although there's various proposals to rein them in over time. Right, so that people forget, and it's more politically. It's less politically destructive if they do it this way. If they attempt to torpedo something like Social Security or Medicare or anything that's popular, and this is not a new strategy by any means. It's just to slowly let it either sunset or just little by little, death by 1,000 cuts. That's how they that's their only viable plan, anyways. The GOP filibuster not renew, and then no deposits, quote, saving money by ending. Yeah, exactly. And then they just kind of tried to avoid the harsher political backlash, destroying Social Security that way. That would be the goal, and Medicare. That would be the goal at the end of the day. No matter what they tell you. No matter what they tell you, these Republicans absolutely have no problems destroying Social Security or Medicare. There is no bill with GOP consensus to change these programs, although there's various proposals to rein them in over time. The White House has told NBC News that Biden will keep criticizing those Republican plans. Biden's attacks stem from a policy agenda released last year by Rick Scott, then the head of the Senate Republican campaign arm. Right, so, like, again, you're telling me that, oh, well, it's just, sorry, let me get my McConnell voice on. You see, it was that plan was issued by Rick Scott. It just happens to be the Senate Republican arm, a campaign arm. You see, the entire party does not agree with the cutting of Social Security, or in any case, but it just so happens to be that the Republican campaign arm agrees with this. Yeah, okay, dude, whatever. Okay, so you're telling me that the party, this is not like a party-wide position, but the Senate Republican, the head of the Senate Republican campaign arm, you know, the campaign arm who's in charge of campaigns, is saying, is coming up with these plans and bullet points or talking points or proposals, policies. That's not a representative of the entire party. That's kind of strange. Then why is the head of the campaign arm coming up with these proposals? The agenda included a section reading all federal legislations to sunset in 5 years. Of course, like I said, they have to couch this rhetoric in a sense of being fiscally responsible or whatever bullshit they need to feed you in order for this to go. All federal legislation to sunset in 5 years. If a law is worth keeping, Congress can pass it again. In other words, it will sunset, and then, you know, in the off chance that Republicans happen to have the Congress in that moment, they can just, choose not to. They already use Social Security like their own piggy bank. Bush took $2 trillion to fund the Iraq War, and it hasn't even been paid back. Yeah, of course. And then they have the audacity to tell you that these quote unquote entitlement programs are just such a drag on the U.S. checkbook. You know, that's the real problem. The real problem is like the very programs that keep seniors and people who are not able to afford healthcare. Yeah, that's where we got to make the cuts, folks. You know, Democrats immediately said such a policy, if implemented, could cause Social Security and Medicare to sunset. Republican leaders, recognizing the political dangers, have distanced themselves from it. Now, in rhetoric, yes, but make no mistake that these goals would let something like this sunset or destroy it. But Biden persisted in using that and other GOP candidates' remarks on so-called entitlements to drive a wedge between them and voters who rely on those programs. I mean, yeah. And the thing is, like, what's ironic is that, like, a lot of the GOP, like, core support does use these quote-unquote entitlement programs. It's, like, wild to me. But okay. Meanwhile, the GOP presidents would sign $85 trillion every year for defense. Yep, gladly. And more. And more. Biden advisors also cite the 2023 budget by the Republican Study Committee, a group of more than 100 House members that proposed to raise the eligibility age for Social Security to adjust for changing lifespans. Bullshit. Like, okay, hold on. Like it isn't just about like the changing lifespan. It's about like the idea. The message that this is saying is like basically you work till you're fucking 70, dude. Okay? Any chance of you like enjoying the best years of your life? Nah. Not here, folks. Not under capitalism. You need to work until you can't. You need to work until you're 70, and then maybe, if those programs haven't been torpedoed into the ground, then maybe you can enjoy like the last couple decades of your life. I guess. It's not just the MAGA people that want to get rid of it. Mitt Romney was also calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme back in 2012. Yeah, this has been part of their platform for decades. Exactly correct. As I was saying, exactly correct. The Republican Party as a platform position, or as a policy position, is exactly that. It's to, if given the opportunity, or if they have a way to do it without suffering, political backlash, they would absolutely torpedo and destroy Social Security and any of these programs down to the ground. Yes, they would. To adjust for changing lifespans and slow the growth of benefits over time. It also and it's funny because they could just eliminate the cap so that the wealthy pay way more in taxes into Social Security, into Medicare, Medicaid, and all that. They could raise the cap so that it doesn't get limited at like 100 and something K, which is ridiculous. And slow the growth of benefits over time. It also includes Medicare premium support for private plans, mirroring a controversial idea by former Speaker Paul Ryan last decade, which became a flashpoint in the 2012 election. Yeah, so that's going to be a heavy no for me. Any type of like attempts at privatization is going to be a no for me. Republicans don't like being called out on this. Biden said a lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security and Medicare. True. Well, let me say this. If that's your dream, I'm your nightmare. Jesus. Because the GOP always says, pay your way out of being disabled. True. Pay your way out of being disabled, being elderly. If you get like health condition or health problem and you don't have money, yeah, F you. The Republican position on the poor, elderly, and kids is essentially F all of you. Biden's State of the Union and subsequent trips are viewed as a soft launch for his widely expected re-election bid, in which he intends to paint the GOP as a threat to Social Security and Medicare, which they are. The crown jewels of the Democratic-led New Deal and Great Society, seizing on decades of attempt to restructure, privatize, or reduce long-term spending on the popular safety net programs. Right. And this is like the tacit admission of how this is the only way that you'll be able to do that. You have to either make it so that it, just coincidentally sunsets, raise your hands up and say, oops, or kill it by death through death by 1,000 cuts. We paid for our Social Security. Anybody calling it an entitlement is lying. Correct. Correct. The framing of quote-unquote entitlement is assuming that you just get it. Like, I know like the meaning behind it, but the Republicans use it as like a double I want to say double entendre. It's like a double meaning behind it, because like the implication is that we paid for it, therefore we are entitled to it. But the Republican rhetoric is to paint that as a negative. When we talk about that, it's to when we talk about it, it's like, yeah, we're entitled to it because we paid for it. But Republicans use that in a negative connotation. That's the difference. But yes, I completely understand. The Democrats seized on this issue in the 2022 midterms with some success, and now it moves to an even bigger stage. It's a smart play for the near term in the debt limit fight, and it's even smarter when we head into the 2024 re-election, said Scott Mulhauser, a top Biden aide who has worked on campaigns and in government. It moves voters, and it moves seniors, and it moves allegiances and alliances, and it resonates. Yeah, I guess. But I would just say, like, it's also just the truth. Like, that isn't real. True. The political fight means Washington is delaying a reckoning about how to resolve the long-term finances of the programs. I mean, like, again, if you're talking about, like, the quote-unquote solvency of Social Security, Bernie Sanders has already put forth a plan. Eliminate that cap, that tax cap. Trustees reports say Medicare Trust Fund is fully solvent through 2028. After that, payments will be cut, and Social Security is solvent to 2035. After that, scheduled benefits would reduce. Biden's remarks indicate that Democrats have ruled out compromises that they pursued during President Obama's first term to trim long-term benefits as a way to reduce the national debt. Those negotiations drew objections from the left and never materialized into an agreement. Since then, Democrats have turned away from potential cuts and rallied around raising revenues to expand the retirement benefits. That's the only option. You should be doing that. The talk radio GOP says Social Security is basically welfare. Never work again when the money has been taxed once, depend on the state. A Social Security recipient is taxed twice. Yeah, like, I love how, like, they want to frame that as a negative. Like Dustin was saying, I love how they try to frame that as a negative. Bro, the only people that get Social Security are 65 and up. Like, what are you talking about? Never work again. Yeah, dude, you're like almost 70. What is wrong with you? Like, these ghouls are literally saying that, like, basically, you should never retire and you should work till you die. Biden has endorsed raising the payroll tax cap on upper earners to expand Social Security payments. He sought to expand Medicare benefits for dental, vision, and hearing services. That's interesting. I wonder where he got that idea from. But that effort was blocked by a few centrists. No, let's get it clear. It's not centrist. It's conservative. Joe Manchin. Conservative Democrat Joe Manchin, not a centrist. He's a conservative Democrat. Blocking things that are just so obvious. Such an obvious, like, W. I have no idea what his motivation is, but I'm sick of his lies. And Representative Beth Van Dune, whatever, who looked puzzled in the House chamber as Biden launches attacks on Republicans in the State of the Union speech. I love this surprise Pikachu face. Like, oh, I have no idea what his motivation was. Man. The gaslighting. The gaslighting is real, folks. Social Security can take away money, reduce your check if you start working $3 reduced for every $1. Like, $3 gets reduced for every $1 that you make an hour, or what? Quote, he has heard, I mean, in any case, there's enough video evidence from different Republicans saying that they are, or that they would be, in favor of cutting or torpedoing these programs. He has heard on more than enough occasions that Republicans are not looking to cut, but looking to, quote unquote, protect those programs. But, okay, question, what actions and what policies have they proposed that would actually protect these programs? And why is the head of the Senate chair, the campaign chair, talking about things like letting these programs sunset every 5 years? If that's the case. Iowa and Minnesota are considering lowering child labor restrictions. Nice. Of course. Of course. I think we went over like one of these articles. I was not aware that another state was doing that as well. Hey, Maple Leaf Dragon. Unless you work 10 hours or less, you can prove it's a seasonal work, Social Security will reduce your check. Gotcha. Yeah, I gotta get them kids working early. True. I know we covered one. I was not aware that Iowa was doing the same thing. Child labor bill? Alright, well. That's, oh, this is... let's see. Oh yeah, okay, so we talked about the Iowa one. I was not aware of Minnesota. Yeah, let's see. See if I can get the news. I started working seasonally when I was 11. Yikes. That shouldn't be a thing. Washington Post. Yeah, I'm trying to get that one, but it's... Hold on. I wanted candy, money, and it was part-time. Hey, Bub Dragon. Well, you know, child labor. Okay, so we know that, we talked about Iowa, I believe, or Minnesota, I don't know. But here, I think this is the one that you were talking about. As local, well, let me finish this here. He has heard on more than enough occasions that Republicans are not looking to cut, but to protect these programs. Again, where are the actions behind that? Obviously, it's not true. And I thought it was all fear-mongering on his part in an effort to divert from his failed policies. Except again, there's literal video evidence of him, of Republicans talking about Social Security and Medicare, who sits on the Ways and Means Committee that oversees Social Security and Medicare. Representative Green, who repeatedly yelled liar during the portion of Biden's speech, and said afterwards he has been lying about Republicans saying that we're going to cut Social Security and cut Medicare, except, again, it's on fucking video. And I can tell you I haven't been in one single meeting in our conference where we even talked about that. It doesn't mean that that's not your position or not your party's position, which, again, then you'd have to explain to me as to why one of the head of the senatorial campaign arm is talking about letting federal programs sunset every 5 years, of which would inevitably include Social Security and Medicare. So explain to me how that works. Square that circle for me. She's either lying or so unaware of what her own party's positions are that she shouldn't even be in that party if that's the case. My parent household was a dictatorship with no constitution or bill of rights. I didn't have much of a choice. Sheesh. Yikes. White House spokesman Andrew Bates said in an email that protecting those programs is core to the president Biden's top priority, made it clear he won't stop calling out plans to scale them back. A wide range of Republican lawmakers have endorsed severe cuts to Medicare and Social Security benefits in the name of fiscal responsibility, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Complaining that Biden is accurately shining a light on the plans they don't want their constituents to know about is very much not the defense that they think. Yeah, basically. Mulhauser said it's rich to see Republicans complain about Democrats using a tactic the GOP has often used, elevating proposals by some in the opposing party and driving that contrast. Yeah, of course. Again, every accusation is just a confession. This is similarly a fair fight, and it's particularly so when these Republican positions are codified and documented in print and introduced in legislation. As Republicans insist that the programs are off the table in a debt limit bill to avert default this year, they face a conundrum. Leaving those costly programs untouched is inconsistent with the demands by some conservatives to balance the budget. This is some bullshit right here. Why would NBC News even type these words is beyond me. Costly programs? Costly programs? Really? Not the glaring hundreds of billions spent and wasted on the military? That's not a very costly program? What about like the God knows how many billions that get shoved downstream to states and localities for police? But no, of course, those are costly programs. Jesus Christ. Yeah, fiscal responsibility. Plebs don't know anything about anything true. Biden's move to highlight Social Security and Medicare has also raised tensions within the GOP, most notably between Scott and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, which I think somebody in chat was talking about earlier, whose advisors blamed the Florida Republican for hurting the GOP candidates in 2022. It's just a bad idea. I think it will be a challenge for him to deal with this in his own re-election in Florida, a state with more elderly people than any other state in America. Well, then, are you or are you not the Senate Minority Leader? Why is this guy the head of the campaign arm then? Why is this guy the head of the Senate campaign arm for the, Senate, not just Florida? Yeah, what a framing indeed. And many SSDI people get less than 25K a year, and some states tax that. Yep. And just, again, to reiterate, 25K a year is literally nothing. 25K a year is like even less than minimum wage. 25K a year is quite literally nothing when you step back and look at it. He's backing up Biden again, Scott said. You see, like, the language here. Essentially, so what he's saying is, like, yeah, he's backing Biden again. In saying that we shouldn't cut Social Security and Medicare. But I thought Republicans weren't about cutting Social Security and Medicare. So which is it? I'm confused. If he's backing Biden again, in this context, it means agreeing with President Biden about not cutting Social Security and Medicare. So, but in just a few moments ago, we had several Republicans line up and screech about how they weren't about that. Okay, sure. The incoherent positions that these Republicans are facing, that they're now just like tripping over each other, is quite hilarious, almost. He doesn't believe that we ought to have a plan. Well, what plan is it then, sir? What plan is it? What plan do you guys have? Because the only plan that you yourself have brought up is conveniently setting the stage for these programs to sunset. So I don't know, man. It kind of sounds like the position of the Republican Party is actually we should probably just quietly let these things die. I couldn't even begin to pretend like I know how to audit the Pentagon. How the F do we even start when they refuse to even cooperate? Yeah, and like trillions go missing. And like, yeah, dude, the expensive programs, Social Security and Medicare. True. Also, people on disability can't have more than $2,000 in assets or else they lose those benefits. Yep, that's true. My plan is to slap every one of these mofos. Oh my god. My cock hasn't come to anything yet, but I am ready. Oh lord. We're still waiting for Republicans to produce their plan to replace Obamacare for like 10 years now. Oh yeah, no. It's not happening. They're not actually interested in solving any of these problems. We just heard a quote saying that they're trying to, do what's best in the interest of the American people, which my response is like, well, then where the heck is your healthcare plan? There's a reason why the Pentagon has never passed an audit. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can't have more than 2,000 in assets, or else those crumbs get taken away from you. And then like the Republicans and conservative Democrats have the audacity to tell you that those are in a negative connotation, that those are entitlement programs, and that we should take that away. Like the crumbs that you poors are getting, that you like disabled people, Like, man, the crumbs that you're getting, you don't even deserve that. That's essentially what the Republican Party's position is. Make no mistake. Alright, so somebody brought to my attention another state trying to loosen child labor law. So yeah, we definitely got to talk about that. So let's switch gears to that. As local economies grapple with tightening labor markets, some state legislators are looking to relax child labor protections to help employers meet hiring needs. Oh, this is a good meme. How dystopic is that to read in 2023? Yeah, dude, we're going back to the 19 whatever 19. When was child labor abolished? Like officially? When were child labor laws made? In 1938. We're going back to 1938, folks. All right. It's a persistent trend in labor economics. Oh, it's part of a persistent trend in labor economics, experts say. Oh, yeah, dude. It's just, what happens in capitalism. When situations call for it, I guess the kids gotta work. When employers struggle to find talent, many prefer to hire younger, cheaper workers rather than increase pay or benefits to attract adults. Yeah, I love the wording that this Washington Post article puts. It's part of a persistent trend in labor economics. Bro, it's fucking capitalism. A persistent trend in labor economics that when employers struggle to find talent, instead of, increasing pay and benefits, they prefer to hire younger, cheaper workers and will often lobby to skirt those regulations or loosen those regulations. And the implication of this statement is to say, there isn't even a problem necessarily that there isn't enough people. The problem is that you guys are being assholes and not paying people or offering benefits. You're not offering incentives. So instead, you're trying to essentially bring back the 1930s to have kids work instead. Because of high demand for workers, there are holes in the system, unfortunately. Capitalism? Unfortunately, child laborers can get caught up in staffing and... what do you mean, unfortunately? Unfortunately? Yeah, okay. Child laborers can get caught up in staffing some of these holes, said David Weil, a professor of social policy and management at Brandeis University and former wage and hour administrator at the Labor Department. Yeah, not offering our children as a sacrifice to capital. Yeah, essentially it's like, listen, bro, we can't really do the whole increase wages and maybe offer good benefits, things like that. Nah. Instead, bring us your 14-year-olds who should be studying in school. 14 and 15 year olds who should be studying in school. Nah, forget about that. Bring them over here. Legislators in Iowa and Minnesota introduced bills in January to loosen child labor law regulations around age and workplace safety protections. Red flag in some of the country's most dangerous workplaces. Yeah, cool. And I suspect that this isn't just out of some idea that these lawmakers came up with. This is probably the result of lobbies from these corporations. Minnesota's bill would permit 16 and 17-year-olds to work construction jobs. Cool. What's completely dystopic is they wanted to loosen the restrictions about what time they would be able to work until, And like they raised the time limit that you would be able to work as a underage kid to like 9 p.m. So if you had like homework or anything like that, that goes out the window. Your studies go out the window, really. And now you've essentially created a perfect candidate to spin that hamster wheel in perpetuity. The Iowa measure would allow 14 and 15-year-olds to work certain jobs in meat packing plants. Cool. Yeah, 18? Too old. Bring us your 5-year-olds before they start school. True. If they had that option, that's what they would be calling for. The Iowa bill, introduced by Senator Jason Schultz, of course, a Republican. Of course. And while we're at it, can we count them as underage? Can we count them as underage until they're off their parents' health insurance? What is that like? Well, it depends. I don't know. In Florida, I think it was 26. I want to say. An Iowa bill introduced by, of course, Republican State Senator Jason Schultz would permit children as young as 14 to work in industrial freezers and meat coolers, provided they are separate from where the meat is prepared, and work in industrial laundry. At 15, they would be able to work as lifeguards and swimming instructors, perform light assembly line work for obtaining a waiver. After obtaining a waiver from state officials, and load and unload up to 50 pounds of products from vehicles and store shelves with a waiver, depending on strength and ability of the 15-year-old. So the same work that the adults do? Hey, how's it going, A-Bond? The Iowa proposal would also expand hours teenagers can work during the school year, which would shield businesses from civil liability if a youth worker is sickened, injured, or killed on the job. What? Right, taxation without... Are they going to start giving the 6-year-olds a right to vote? Nah. Okay, yeah, so just to be clear, they're talking about, like, teenagers, but nonetheless, they can't vote. So are they going to pay taxes? Because if they are going to pay taxes, if they are going to earn money and pay taxes on that, then that brings up a great question, Bipedal. Should these people who are working, should then they be allowed to vote? The answer to that, in a logical sense, would obviously be yeah. But, you know, it would expend hours teenagers can work, and would shield businesses from civil liability if a youth worker is sickened, injured, or killed on the job. Nice! Damn. Wait. I thought Republicans were pro-life. I thought Republicans attempted to paint themselves as a pro-party, a pro-worker party. So explain to me why there are legal shields for businesses that would protect them if a kid was sickened or worse, killed on the job. I mean, like, the fact that this is even, like, a part of that is a massive red flag, because, like, wait a minute. If it wasn't a problem, why are you waiving civil liability if a literal kid gets hurt or sick or worse, died on the job? If you're not anticipating for more accidents to potentially happen because, you know, they're fucking kids. It is just wild to me that Republicans, of course, you know, support this. That was the most awesome thing to me about Cuba's family code. Children have a right to their own self-determination and ability to develop themselves outside forces of family. Nice. These mofos have an extreme problem with children being expressed themselves in ways that their parents don't want them to. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Nothing more, nothing less, just fetus. Exactly. Afterwards, don't matter. Afterwards, we will literally pass legislation to shield businesses from any liability if you get killed. Or injured. Or sick. But, yeah, dude. Listen. Nothing more, nothing less, just fetus. After that, listen, bro. After that, if you're 14, if you're 15, maybe even 16, 17. Wait, the Iowa one, let's go back to that. As young as 14. Okay, this is the Iowa one, the one that Republicans propose. Yeah, they specifically made sure that A, you get to work, and B, should you get hurt on the account of, you know, you're a fucking child, you're a kid, then there will be no civil penalties. Why is it wild? You're not the one to have social blinders on. No, this is more of a this is more of like a shock that we see it like in the open. It's more of like a shock kind of deal that in 2023 we have loosening restrictions for child labor laws, and some of those include removing any liabilities that these companies have should they get, you know, killed. While, of course, it's expected because they're Republicans, it still shouldn't lose its shock value. It still shouldn't lose its shock value. I don't know if that made sense, but hopefully that clears that up. Getting hurt at work is not a joke. Hopefully they don't fire the kid and leave them scarred for life like they do for the adults. I mean, they probably can and will. Since there's no civil liabilities, then they don't really have to care, do they? They don't really have to care. But there was a redistricting and they don't understand no one if you noticed, apparently except me, like literally everyone in East Valley, including Tampa, Mesa, Chandler got a new rep and everyone just put in on one Dem on the ballot even though no one knew who he was. Sheesh. Yikes. Schultz did not respond to our request for comment. Critics say the proposal is dangerous and would subject child workers to hazardous environments. Yeah. No shit. No shit. Do you remember the images of children in manufacturing and other dangerous work situations from the 1900s? Connie Ryan, the executive director of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, said in a testimony to state lawmakers, according to Radio Iowa, there's a reason our society said that it is not appropriate for children to work under those conditions. Yeah. No shit. Like, it's pretty fucking common sense, right? And, like, they know. These schools know. And the reason why they know is because they made the conscious decision to remove any civil liabilities. Why else would you make that decision? It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident, that's for sure. It was a conscious decision to do that. I recommend adopting my philosophy. Nothing that any human does will ever shock me again. That way you're never disappointed, but the possibility of a pleasant surprise still remains. Oh, man. Sheesh. Proponents of the Iowa bill argue that lowering the age limit fills a need. Which need? During the same hearing at which Ryan spoke, grocery industry lobbyist Brad Epperly argued an awfully low number of younger people are working. That's a good thing. You fucking ghoul. That's a good thing. The fact that there are a very, very, very small, the fact that there's an awful low number of younger people working is a good thing. And the federal statistic he cited is that the job participation rate for ages 16 to 24 was about 56%. That's not good. It should be less. That, and they need to get a nice supply of healthy, fresh bodies until they break. Right. And again, like, they consciously, these Republicans made a conscious decision to make sure to protect these companies. Because they know it's an obvious conclusion. It's an inevitable conclusion that obviously you're probably going to have more accidents or whatever on the account of, you know, they're fucking kids. And this ghoul, which is a grocery industry lobbyist, this fucking ghoul said that there's an awful low number of young people. Yeah, fuck off. The need to drive adults out of a living wage job. Yeah. New Jersey enacted a law last year expanding the hours teens are allowed to work when school's not in session. Wisconsin state legislature lifted restrictions on work hours during the school year, but Governor Tony Evers vetoed that legislation. Good. Good. The Ohio State Senate passed a similar bill unanimously, but this measure died in the legislature's lower chamber. Jesus Christ. Federal regulators have scrutinized reports of child labor violations in recent months. In August, Labor Department sued a Hyundai supplier in Alabama after Reuters reported the facility had used 12-year-olds. Jesus. A Nebraska labor contractor for meat producer JBS settled with the Labor Department to resolve civil charges after regulators alleged the company used oppressive child labor. Law enforcement launched an investigation into the plant after an underage worker allegedly sustained chemical burns from cleaning agents used at the facility. Again, and these fucking ghouls want to, did loosen these regulations and gave them legal protection and gave these companies legal protection. Because corporations are people and humans are liability unless they are developing in the womb. True. To protect underage workers from dangerous environments and prioritizing schooling, federal limits the type of jobs that children can perform and how many hours they can work each week. I mean, yeah, but the reality is there shouldn't be a scenario in the richest country in the world where this is a thing. Okay, this shouldn't be a thing at all. It should be that, you know, kids are in school. Really, states can impose additional requirements and in the past have taken aim at particularly hazardous workplaces. Those state laws, though, yeah, true, humans are a renewable resource. Yeah, I guess. The state laws, though, are periodically rolled back for a variety of reasons. Capitalism. I mean, yeah, that's basically the only, you know, convergence there. Some state economies depend on industries such as agriculture that rely on immigrant or migrant workers and their families. You know, kids. During hard economic times, again, this is capitalism. Some parents need their children to get a job or work. Why is that? What system are we running on, folks? That could possibly put a strain on families so hard at this time, because it is the predominant system, that it would, you know, that parents would even dream of sending their kids or getting their kids to work. What system are we currently under that would even require this at this time? While also simultaneously, at least here, at least in the U.S., simultaneously being an incredibly wealthy country. Huh. Interesting. Said Reed Mackey, the director of advocacy for at the Child Labor Coalition. Jesus Christ. The Child Labor Coalition. Jesus, this is some dark shit, folks. But okay. During hard economic times, some parents need their children to get a job or work more hours to help make ends meet. Yeah, this is the Child Labor Coalition. Hold on. Before I start, like, what is the Child Labor Coalition? Okay. The Child Labor Coalition, I'm going to assume this is, I hope, this is what they're referring to. But according to what I've found, the Child Labor Coalition is a non-profit aimed at stopping child labor. So we'll see. It's just framed weird. Anyways, do I have it? It certainly felt that way. It certainly felt that way because of this language, right? But from what I gathered, although it's not clear here, from what I gathered, unless it's different from the Child Labor Coalition. Hold on, let me see. Child Labor Coalition. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna assume, that supposedly they're going, it seems like it seeks to end exploitative child labor. Not aimed at ending child labor as a whole. Their purpose is to end exploitative child labor, which is defined as employment, whether in the formal or informal sector, whether paid or unpaid, that is coerced. I mean, but like, again, that is coerced. Well, by definition, you just said during economic times when they need to help, when ends need to be met. Here, I'm sorry, I haven't even, here. The child labor, blah, 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 consider exploitation of children. Yeah, like, okay, but by definition, if you have to find a job, if you are being forced to find a job to make ends meet, in other words, if you don't work, then you do not have a a roof over your head, you do not have food to eat, then by definition, yeah, you're being coerced. If a family is thinking about sending their children to work because they are having trouble making ends meet, then by definition, that is coercive. Yes, that applies to adults, yes, as well. It is incredibly coercive, no matter what these libertarians tell you, that you're free to choose whatever job you want. Yeah, I am. I'm free to choose whatever job I want. Let's see. Let me take a look. So I can choose the shitty job that pays minimum wage at place X. Or I can go to the other place that also pays minimum wage, pays like shit, no benefits or whatever, low benefits. Or I can go to place Y that also pays like shit and not many benefits. Huh. Choices. It's either that or I go to the street. Yeah, how come nobody's having kids anymore? Yeah, I don't know if I really am on board with this child labor coalition. 'Cause like, by definition, it is exploitative to have children working anyways. So why would you make that specific distinction? As if like a 14-year-old being forced to work at McDonald's to fucking make ends meet isn't being coerced or exploited? So that's kind of a red flag for me. But okay. Whatever. During hard economic times, some parents need their children to get a job or work more hours to help make ends meet. Again, this is a capitalism thing. During periods of full employment, the U.S. unemployment rate of 3.4% is its lowest in decades. Employers want a larger workforce to ease their hiring strains. Okay, but the solution isn't having children work. The solution is pay people more, incentivize people with good benefits. Experts say that this can come at a high cost to children who take these jobs and hurt the labor market's long-term prospects. They're not interested in looking at the long picture. They don't care. Some jobs that children perform, babysitting, waiting a restaurant table, scooping ice cream, could be good for them. Nah. Those kind of jobs can teach responsibility, professionalism, and financial literacy. Hard pass. But other trade-oriented jobs such as agriculture work, landscaping, and construction could be more pernicious, said Berkowitz, said a fellow Georgetown University Kalmanovitz Initiative for Labor and Working Poor. They're less likely to employ middle or upper-class children who take jobs for workplace experience or pocket change. Instead, Berkowitz and other child labor critics say children in lower-income families are more likely to be hired for those roles. A lot of child labor jobs are menial jobs, and those skills aren't transferable. That's the point. Bushway and other researchers have found that the less restrictive state regulations are with youth employment, the more children will work and the more hours that they will work, but limiting the number of hours children can work can help their education. They don't have to go to college, but they can learn a skill and get into an apprentice program and pull everybody up. Or, hear me out, you could possibly offer these routes in school. You can possibly offer these trade like skills or whatever. You can offer these programs through school. Gotta assimilate them to capitalism real young. True. That's right. They're not only transferable because these assholes don't think that they deserve wages. Yep. That's a good point. And they can still work on the weekends and after school for certain hours, but they should be focused on school. Okay. Again, if you're talking about like learning a trade or something technical or whatever, it should just be offered as a route in school, right? But they should be focused on school. Yes. Yes. Anyways, capitalism is good to capitalism. Nice. I've read 85 articles last year. No, I didn't. I read more than that. All right. 5 days after a train carrying vinyl chloride derailed and exploded near an Ohio-Pennsylvania border, crews ignited a controlled burn of toxic chemicals to prevent a much more dangerous explosion. Thousands in East Palestine, a town of 5,000 people evacuated, and officials warned the controlled burn would create a phosgene and hydrogen chloride plume across the region. Phosgene is a highly toxic gas that can cause vomiting and breathing trouble and was used as a weapon in the First World. Oh, cool. So, yeah, yeah, cool, nice, awesome. Though no one died in this accident, the catastrophe serves as a wake-up call to the potential for more deadly freight rail derailments. Public health advocates warn. By one estimate, 25 million Americans live in an oil train blast zone, and that the derailment occurred just a few miles east. It would have been burning in downtown Pittsburgh when tens of thousands of residents in immediate danger. Ineffective oversight and largely the self-monitoring industry that has cut the nation's rail workforce to the bone in recent years, as it puts record profits over safety, is responsible for this wreck. Yeah. Also, one of the motivators as to why we almost had a nationwide strike with these railroad workers, which the Biden administration essentially short-circuited. This is exactly what the workers were afraid of. Dangerous conditions, because they've understaffed, because they're so understaffed, very overworked. This was only a matter of time. This was only a matter of time. Which puts record profits over safety, is responsible for the wreck, said Ron Kamenkow, I don't know, an Amtrak locomotive engineer and former Norfolk South freight engineer. The Palestine wreck is the tip of the iceberg and a red flag, said Kamenkow, who's secretary of the Railroad Workers United, a nonprofit labor group that coordinates with the nation's rail unions. If something is not done, then it's going to get worse, and the next derailment could be cataclysmic. About 4.5 million tons of toxic chemicals are shipped by rail each year, and an average 12,000 rail cars carrying hazardous material pass through cities and towns each day. The latest incident comes after 47 people were killed in the town of Lac Megantic in Quebec in 2013 when a runaway train exploded. In February 2020, crude oil train derailed and exploded outside Gurney's, Saskatchewan. An ethanol train in Kentucky derailed and burst into flames a week later. Yeah, the Pittsburgh region alone has seen eight train derailments over the last 5 years, according to the public health advocacy group Rail Pollution Protection Pittsburgh, and about 1,700 annually occur nationally. The case of the Pittsburgh accidents highlight the myriad of ways in which things can go wrong. A crack in a track ignored by rail companies caused a 2018 derailment. I wonder if they had any responsibility to bear there. While another train hit a dump truck at a crossing with inadequate safety equipment. Again, I'm wondering if there was any consequences for these companies. I doubt it. A broken axle on a train car is thought to have been the source of this East Palestine accident. Up to 50% of volatile... Yeah, like, I wouldn't even call this an accident because I wouldn't even call this an accident. Essentially, these companies ignore safety in favor of profits. So it's not really... I wouldn't even call it an accident, more negligence. This train crash is not really badass in what way? That a lot of people could possibly get hurt? Did the circus end early? Did the circus... Listen, I tell, like, all the clowns that come into chat... wait, before I, like... Before I continue, is this a sarcastic comment? I certainly hope so. Oh, yeah, okay, so you're just a clown. Alright, did the circus, like, end early for you? Did the circus end early for you? You do know that I start my stream at 5. You can at least come in the beginning of the stream, so we'll have some entertainment at least. I don't understand why these clowns always come in at the tail end of the stream. Rail traffic is projected to increase throughout the region as new Shell plastic plant comes online and rail infrastructure like tracks and bridges are in a precarious state. The railroads are playing Russian roulette with Pittsburgh, and we are a prime candidate for a major derailment and explosion. Still, the U.S. Transportation Department in 2020 approved a rule to allow liquefied natural gas to be shipped via rail with no additional safety regulations. Surely nothing can go wrong here. Cool. Trains can now run 100 or more tank cars filled with 30,000 gallons of the substance, largely from shale fields to saltwater ports. Cool. This decision was opposed by local leaders, unions, fire departments, and the NTSB. The risk of catastrophic LNG release is too great not to have operational controls in place before large blocks of tank cars and unit trains proliferate. Alright, dude. That's, No one complained about the crashes? What are you talking about? Are you okay? What is Mayor Pete doing about the lack of regulations? Ha! Nothing. We're happy to report that, the head of the Department of Transportation is doing fuck all. In fact, as I was saying earlier, one of the main concerns that almost caused a nationwide strike was, short-circuited by the Biden administration. Is this about the train thing? Yes, sir. Back in the old days, people made movies about big-ass crashes because they were cool as hell. Okay, I don't know if, like, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, just to be clear, this isn't a movie. Like, you do know that, right? This isn't a movie. And a lot of people could potentially be hurt or worse. This isn't some fucking Rambo movie, you fucking clown. Can we also transport millions of gallons of hydrogen fuel under pressure by rail? No safety? No, nothing at all. It might as well. You might as well start doing that too. What if Steve... Are you okay? Are you okay? What? What? Are you gonna make like a coherent sentence at any point? Because if not, you're free to leave. I guarantee that like you're probably just wasting your time here. I had a friend look over some of this with me a few nights ago. He's a chemist who works at university. Hey, CFC, the adults are talking, okay? The adults are talking. His conclusion seemed to be that the situation itself was pretty impossible because the materials at hand were very dangerous if left unattended, and that burning it was the best of a series of bad options. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they said above. Yep. If they didn't, then it would risk causing a bigger explosion, or it would have ended up being a lot worse. So they basically did what they had to do, given the circumstance. Yes. The risk of catastrophic LNG releases in accidents is far too great to have an operational controls in place before large blocks of tanks and unit trains proliferate. Just 22 train tank cars filled with LNG hold the same amount of energy as the Hiroshima bomb, a coalition of environmental groups wrote in the comments to regulators opposing the LNG rail rule in 2020. That is raising fears of a catastrophe if a proposed LNG port is built in New Jersey, which could take shipments from 2 100-car trains daily that would run through nearby Metro Philadelphia. The best of bad options equal least expensive. The LNG fire is extremely difficult for local crews to contain, and shipping it via rail is extremely dangerous practice. We've been astonished by the effect that the spillage of 5 cars of vinyl chloride has at the Pennsylvania-Ohio border, but that would be nothing compared to the effects of a similar derailment of LNG. In Florida, plans to expand passenger rail services also seem to design to increase LNG shipment capacity by the company behind the effort. Of course, there's a corporate interest behind this. The public safety advocacy group fears higher speed passenger trains sharing tracks with freight trains carrying LNG and other chemicals could ignite a disaster like the East Palestine. Eastern Ohio is less dense than most of where Florida lines run. Mihail added an LNG exposure in denser East Florida would likely be much more deadly. There's no evacuation because you're dead, so it's very frightening. Jesus Christ. Under the Biden administration, the Transportation Department has proposed a suspension of the Trump-era LNG rule, allowing the substance to be transported via rail and replace it with a new rule. But the suspension was supposed to be published by June of 2022, but it and the new rule have been delayed twice and are now supposed to be final in March. I don't know if this is a priority for DOT. The Railroad Workers United pinned the threat on rail industry cuts to inspection, staff, and elimination of safety protocol. Again, almost like the very reason as to why these unions were about to strike. The railroad companies laid off more than 20,000 rail workers during a period of 2018 to 2019, representing the biggest layoffs in rail since the Great Recession, and the nation's rail force has dipped below 200,000, the lowest ever, down from 1 million at its peak. They have to cut the hell out of the workforce, and there's big plans to cut it further. Because just because the rail companies are profitable doesn't mean they're healthy. True. All right. Let's see if we can get through this one here. Sloopling, how's it going? Yeah, he said there was a really high risk of all there was a really high violent explosion if it wasn't dealt with, and that although the option is bad, it's not as dangerous. He was at least very familiar with the phosgene gas stuff. he hasn't used in the lab before. It's very difficult because they did at least advise people to leave the area, but at the same time, you can't control where derailments happen. Just your luck if it's near population/water, uneven terrain. But I guess the argument for strict regulations. Yeah, 100%. I think that's exactly the core here. Not bad. Good to hear. Yep. And the issue here is also the rail companies. I have a question for you since it's been a tough subject for me and I would value your input on it. Well, maybe. Shoot. $500 a month, no strings attached. Chicago experiments with a guaranteed income. For recipients, it's a lifeline for liberal supporters. It shows how expanding certain aspects of government can make a difference. For conservatives, it's a return to wasteful welfare handouts. Holy City, yes, the most iconic capitalist of railroad barons. True. Christopher Ellington's Southside Photography Studio crashed in 2020 with the onset of the pandemic. By March, in 2021, he was scraping by on a tax preparation and financial advice business when gunshots rang out one day as he was leaving work. 2 bullets from a drive-by shooter pierced his head and left him permanently blind. The creditors were closing in, rent notices stockpiling up, and there was a helping hand came last summer from Mayor Lightfoot's administration. The first of a year's worth of monthly 500 checks with no strings attached. Almost no questions. No questions asked. I mean, again, like I understand that $500 isn't a lot, but it proves that some type of universal, like basic income can make the difference to people. I don't know. It's about this Hogwarts game, and I'm struggling to talk to friends who want to and are playing. I don't know how to tell them. It might offend some people if they do. I'm gonna be honest. It depends on who the person is, because you might need to explain to them, and they might not see it the way you do. So you may need to kind of gauge how you need to bring it about. It's not that the game itself is problematic. It's the fact that the person who's receiving these royalties and the person who's actually financially benefiting is seeing it as validation for her views. It's basically, she's seeing it, and she's stated, and her supporters of J.K. Rowling and whatnot have seen it as validation. So you kind of have to like put that into a sentence that they can understand. For the most part, they're not as mature as me, and they may not really care about the drama behind it. And it's just, yeah, right. Like, to them, it's just a game, and that's fine. But it's not just the game. It's the fact that, like, you know, J.K. Rowling sees it as validation. The more people buy it and whatnot, even though your friends or the people or friends, roommates, whoever, is maybe they don't see it as validation for some bigoted views, but she certainly does. For the most part, they're not as mature as me, and they may not really care about the drama. It's just a game. Rowling is shut down a woman's shelter, and buying the game is telling her to shut down more. Right, exactly. That's my point. My point is that she sees it as the more you, even if you yourself don't even if you yourself don't really think much of it, or maybe they're just normies. She certainly sees it that way. It's an iffy line to cross because if you discourage people from playing games, what else do you do? Do you discourage people from watching Tarantino movies because Harvey Weinstein still gets money from those? I mean, yeah, I guess. But at the same time, I think like the difference, at the same time, I think the difference isn't like Harvey Weinstein going out and being like, yeah, dude, this totally validates my point of view. Does that make sense? Versus like J.K. Rowling is like flaunting it as like, oh yeah, the more people buy it, the more this validates me. You know, I do think that it's a little bit different, but I understand what you're saying, James. But I think that this particular situation is like different. That's true. There are other games to play. That's true. The company should be dead by now. Wait, Weinstein? I mean, yeah. I think that all shit should be boycotted if some evil peeps are profiteering from it. I mean, yeah. But at the same time, it's like I see what James is saying. I'm just saying that it's like, you know, like we have like obviously this person who's like flaunting it and whatnot. Personally, I'm good. Hard pass. It's that simple. But we all know that JK is like an audible vision of high profile. We should discourage that game when there are plenty of games. Yeah, I mean, like, again, if you know this person, or you know these people, there may be a way of bringing up that point. Being like, well, you know, I understand. And I understand that, like, there is such a thing as separating the art from the artist and all that stuff. But like in this particular scenario, she's like literally saying that the more people play this and the more people buy this, then that's validating my point of view. And this one sucks for me because I love playing video games no matter what they are. But if someone or a group of people are affected by it, then I can play something else. Yeah, it's more like of the principle, right? It's more of like the principle because, like, again, you might not see it. Maybe even the game itself is not really problematic. But she thinks so. And her supporters certainly see it that way. If that makes sense. It's not even a good game from what I've heard, but I haven't played it for real, so I can't be sure. Maybe CFC will get the point. Name a good game. Name a good game made from a movie. I'll wait. Maybe CFC will get the point and fuck off. That's another good point. I have not seen a very good video game that came out of a movie. Oh, Batman Arkham? Yeah. Unfortunately, ivermectin doesn't work, so yeah. Anywho. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only thing that I could, like, think of, sorry, Friendly Fire. I thought the World War Z game was okay. There was a World War Z game? I didn't even know. I didn't even know that was a thing. It was okay for about like 5 minutes. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only thing I would say is like, yeah, I understand. But just consider this point of view. That maybe, just maybe, you might not find any of this offensive, or you yourself might not even support any of J.K. Rowling's views. But she certainly sees it that way. So do her supporters. Something to think about. A Cornell mathematician proved that Harry Potter books' popularity had nothing to do with the content / quality of the books. I always thought it was funny and correct. That's the only way I can, like, kind of think about it. At the very least, it might get them thinking. At the very least, it might get them thinking. Like I said, maybe they don't even know. Maybe they don't support her views. They don't support J.K. Rowling's views. I mean, like, even some of, like, the Harry Potter actors have come out against her. They don't support her views, but just saying, she certainly thinks so. Here. The Bernie Sanders and Democrats introduced a bill boosting Social Security benefits. Nice. The same person stopped using Streamlabs when all that controversy happened too, so I'm hoping that they take the hint. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't... yeah, I think that that's problematic, and I try to avoid Blizzard as much as humanly possible. But at the same time, I think like the difference here is, I think that like the difference here is I think the difference here is that the person behind this is actually saying that, yeah, like this does validate my views. Those shoulders are shopped, like in the advertising. I don't really have a problem with anyone personally choosing to avoid products on principle, but it gets a little more complicated when they express that expectation outwardly, because then you'll invaluably be met with, well, what about X response? You'll be accused of being inconsiderate of certain issues and picking and choosing. Well, I don't think you should, like, it's more of like explaining to them what you feel. I mean, you're not gonna win a person over by saying like, oh, you know, in a berating way. That's not gonna work. Oh yeah, dude, I'm the one that's controlling these ads. True. Seems like there's a this push to conflate gender with sex when they're not really the same thing. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I'm reading like this article to James's point where like, yeah, they're also saying that like when you have a situation like that, Blizzard should also be under scrutiny too. But that's just my 2 cents on it. I think, and I'm looking at how Shapiro talks about it, that it's the matter of common decency. If someone wants to be called a man or a woman, just let them be. You might be technically correct in the use, but these are people with emotions and feelings, and just give them their... Yeah, it's very simple. Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, like, at the very baseline, that's how it should be anyways. But like many stances, I'm not expert on feminism and trans issues, and I've certainly dabbled in a good bit of it because of my background, but like many instances, it can often have misconceptions and misunderstandings. My main takeaway from the subject is usually summates to all sides at times lack compassion to come to a place of peace, and I've spoken to a lot of people on different sides of the debate, and that's the vibe that I usually get. Yeah, I mean, like if you want to like talk to somebody, if it's somebody like that, you know, it's very different than just from like some clown on the internet, right? Like some just anonymous on the internet. Different. Completely different. But that's just how I see it. Sheesh. You know what? Here's what I would say. Scroll down J.K. Rowling's Twitter, and I think the point might actually get across. Yeah. Just show them J.K. Rowling's Twitter. I think the point will be very clear. Jesus Christ. Yes, the intolerant left refuses to be civil about my interest in owning slaves. Yeah, I just finished scrolling like around her Twitter. I think I would just show them that. Yeah. That's probably the advice that I would say. Just scroll down her Twitter. All right. If they could come to the conclusion as to why there could be a problem with the way Blizzard has conducted themselves, and why that might be a reason not to support it, if that's your, if you can see that, then you could definitely see that argument. Yeah, sheesh. I just took a quick scroll through her Twitter. Whew. Oh boy. Just do that. All right, so putting the train back on the tracks. The creditors were closing in, rent notices piling up, and then a helping hand came last summer from Mayor Lori Lightfoot's administration, the first of a year's worth of $500 checks with no strings attached and almost no questions asked. Talk about shock, said Mr. Ellington. It was, hey, the government is doing this. Wait a minute, I don't have to, report this or report that, and you don't have to go through all my business, and I don't have to watch what I say. And I was like, this is how it should be. Chicago, yeah, means testing is bullshit. Yeah, needless to say. Chicago and the surrounding suburbs of Cook County are conducting the largest experiment of its kind in the nation, an effort to supply thousands of residents with basic level of subsistence, not in the form of food or housing or childcare, just cash. Mrs. Lightfoot's $31 million Resilient Communities pilot selected 5,000 residents in August to receive a guaranteed cash income for a year. The first 500 checks from a separate program, a $42 million county pilot, went out in December to 3,250 residents concentrated in the near Chicago suburbs. On Monday, the National Association of Counties conference in Washington, which started over the weekend and runs through Tuesday, county executives will announce a network of county-level basic income programs to match the mayoral initiatives that have sprouted in 50 cities. Nice! Both Chicago and Cook County are tapping money sent to local governments through the 2021 pandemic relief known as the American Rescue Plan. Both programs are administered by the group Give Directly that has been better known for helping poor people in developing nations. Imagine that for a second. The city and county efforts are being assessed by local social scientists at the University of Chicago. It's certainly one of the broader lessons I've learned from people like Cornel West, that you have to grant compassion to people even when you don't think that they're deserving of it. It's hard, but it's not meant to be easy. No, I completely understand that. I'm not saying to like just, essentially torch these people, but to show them. And if they can grasp the concept of what you were saying earlier about why Blizzard is problematic, then certainly this can be this can be argued for as well. You don't have to be incompassionate about it. It's more like understanding who you're speaking with, especially if you know these people, and making a good solid point. And honestly, just scroll through her Twitter. It speaks for itself. It's just gonna go to the landlord, probably. It's literally just a synonym for landlord. I demand that everybody participate in capitalism. UBI now. True. Just understand that, like, given the cards and given the circumstances that we're in, I think the point being is that, one, things like this can be done, and two, things like this do help people in the immediate. Or at the very least can ease people's financial burdens, even if it's not a lot. $500 $500 can mean the difference between that one day a car breaking down can potentially wipe out what little money you might have in the bank. One single car incident, I don't know, broken whatever, can literally wipe out whatever you might have, which is just like worse than you at least having something. I'm not saying that this is a way to solve the problems, or at least even address the root causes of the problem. I'm saying that this is a good, pilot program to test that principle of, like, hey, when the government decides to do good things for the people, it turns out that sometimes it works. Sometimes it works, and sometimes government is necessary. Sometimes. Yeah, it does ease suffering. Yes, for some, especially for the very poor. If that works, if something like that works and is having great success, the next follow-up question should be, well, can we do universal, like, healthcare programs? What about universal education programs? If we can definitely, if we find so much success being able to deploy programs to give people some sort of, like, universal basic income, what about making sure that people don't go hungry? Food, housing, education, healthcare. Whatever the outcome, the spread of basic income programs is a reminder of the growing divide between Democrats and Republicans, urban voters and rural conservatives, those who want more government in people's lives and those who want less. Yeah, but this is a completely false way of viewing things, because these people between like urban and rural, you both would get the basic, in an ideal scenario, you both would be receiving a universal kind of like flat, like basic assistance. And I'm not understanding what they're talking about when it comes to more government in people's lives. I don't know what that means. It is like the government knocking at your door? Are like government agents intruding in your life every month to give you the $500 check? And also, if that's the case, then why do you care about then why do you care about what people do with their own bodies? Why do you care about what bathrooms people use? That seems kind of strange, because it's conservatives who are all up in this culture war nonsense about the LGBTQ community. It's conservatives who are up in arms about abortion. That's kind of strange. That is true when it's mean tested. However, UBI is less government. Yeah. That's exactly my point. Yes. That's exactly my point. So I'm not understanding this false perception here, this false dichotomy. There's no indication that I see that the American public thinks what we really need is more aid to people who choose not to work. What are you talking about? What do you mean choose not to work? You really think that somebody's just going to survive on $500 a month? And furthermore, a lot of people who still get subsidies and still get who still qualify for government programs are working. True. Someone who got shot twice in the head got who not only had a business but was a victim but was a victim of like a drive-by shooting. True. You know what? Bootstraps. You got shot twice and went blind? Bro, you got hands. Bootstraps, motherfucker. These people are fucking ghouls. There's no indication that I see that the American public thinks that what we really need is more aid to people who choose not to work. Again, this is nonsense. Said Robert Rector, a conservative public assistance expert at the Heritage Foundation, of course. The Heritage Foundation, who helped shape the welfare change of the 90s. Yes, of course. Hey, the Simulacra. I think it's important to note that most of the conservative culture warriors are not poor, dumb rural bumpkins as they are portrayed, but relatively wealthy exurbanites with 4-car garages. True. True. But in democratic cities in the state of deep blue and bright red, such as Columbia, South Carolina, Shreveport, LA, Louisiana, Birmingham, Alabama, political leaders are moving in the opposite direction. Mayor Lightfoot may be in the throes of a difficult campaign for re-election, but none of her 8 rivals for the Democratic mayoral nomination ahead of the first round of voting on February 28th have made an issue of her guaranteed income effort. Instead, the mayor is picking a fight with the National Republican Party. These are the same people that don't want to expand healthcare and are look at the number of people in their communities, these ruby red communities that are suffering. These are the same people, frankly, that are attacking the very core of our democracy, demonizing being different and being the other based upon your religion, your creed, or who you love, and gender identity. True. Yeah, I'm the mayor of the city, and I know what our people need. Adrian Talbot, Associate Dean for Civic Engagement at the Crown Family School of Social Work at the University of Chicago, called the effort a prime example of how Democrats' assertion that governments can work. Yes. He added that the expectation was with big bets on behalf of traditionally marginalized, vulnerable populations in light of the pandemic, the government can meet this moment. I mean, if there's like a small, city government the mayor of this city can do this, I'm pretty sure that we have the capability of doing more. That's basically why this is good, because if you have these pilot programs be successful, it proves that you can do so much more. Yet they are desperately manipulating the economy to be that 3 to 5% unemployment that allows capitalists to pay lower wages. Yeah, and to apparently encourage children to work by lobbying for loosening of restrictions. Yes. The income cutoff for Chicago and counties for giving 250% of the federal poverty level, $36,450 a year for an individual, or $75 for a family of 4. Though acceptance was weighted towards certain groups such as homeless people, veterans, and caregivers. Nice. University of Chicago researchers are using surveys, in-person interviews, economic, labor, criminal, legal, and educational data to track recipients of the money, and an even larger control group not selected for the grants. Ms. Lightfoot said the future of the pilot program would depend on the university's assessment. Tony Preckwinkle, president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, insisted the county project would not end when the federal funds were exhausted. The county will tap funds from newly legalized cannabis sales and other revenue streams to keep it going. Nice! Using the university's assessment to guide it and decide whether to expand it. Again, imagine a country that legalized marijuana and used that to deploy universal programs like a universal healthcare system, or housing, or food, or a universal education system. Damn. When she talks about the origins of the guaranteed basic income concept, Ms. Preckwinkle invokes not only the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, but also more confrontational Black Panthers. What happened in this country historically is these ideas get tried out at local levels in cities, counties, and states, and when there's enough momentum, they get adopted by the federal government. So that's why we're hoping what will happen. The kid thing is like a win-win-win thing for corporations, cheap labor, kids, threaten working adults with replacing them, and apparently no responsibility for injuring kids. Yep, completely fine. Mind you, this was orchestrated by the state Republican Party there. They're giving homeless people $500 a month, but not housing. They need to take that. They need to take the next step. Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that this is, silver bullet. I'm just saying that if they're successful with deploying like a universal kind of program, why aren't we able to do more? Because then people are going to realize that maybe the system that we are currently under is perhaps not allowing a lot of these things to happen. And then questions begin to arise. Why isn't our government, if they are capable of doing this, $500 a month, then why aren't they doing more? Why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the military? Unnecessary. That's what I'm hoping is the takeaway from this. If we can organize successful pilot programs like this, why aren't we capable of doing more? To conservatives, it's little wonder that a program funded by federal taxpayers that doles out money with no strings attached would be popular to cities and recipients. But Mr. Rector said that previous experiments in cash assistance, like negative income tax programs for the poor in the 70s, showed employment reduction and negative impacts on marriage that lasted long after the efforts ended. Programs like, negative impacts on marriage? You mean like, what negative impacts on marriage? You mean like women were able to be more financially independent? Is that what he means is that what he means by negative impacts on marriage? Women suddenly became or more capable of being independent. That's kind of strange if that's the implication. Who gives a shit about marriage? The employment showed employment reduction, negative impacts on marriage, lasted long after the efforts ended. Programs like earned income tax credit for low-wage workers and work requirements imposed in the 1990s were a corrective to those failures. Yeah. Okay, buddy. The latest incarnation, guaranteed basic income, will keep its able-bodied recipients in extended adolescence, and it's really good if you could do it with a boatload of free federal... Oh, yeah, dude. True. I remember too when $500 was a literal boatload of free federal money. True. Or in this case, money that was flowed from the federal government to the cities that are now being used for pilot programs like this. Yeah, dude. Total boatload. Women could not have financial independence until 1975. No, I'm making a statement where, like, it's very telling that he makes a note of, like, poor negative impacts on marriage. Like, what does that mean? That women were finally, like, able to have more financial independence because of these assistants, and also as Princess Chi-Chi in a bikini just pointed out, in the 70s, women still needed husband's approval for credit. In the 70s. So, yeah. Able-bodied means you have not been diagnosed with a terminal illness. True. The proliferation of such programs is a clear statement that we want a post-work economy. Post-work economy? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? A post-work economy? And also, like, how do you know that the cause of, again, negative impacts were caused by this? Anyways, it's just bullshit. Conservatives really do have to do a lot of, like, Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to make a point. What is a post-work economy? I don't know what that means. Liberal academics have their own criticism of such programs, which gained prominence in 2020. Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang proposed a $1,000 a month universal basic income. A report by European labor unions expressed worry that unconditional cash assistance to create a universal income floor in a developed economy might render targeted social services obsolete. Any government functions that ensure equitable healthcare, childcare, and education services. Okay, but we don't have any of those, really. What? We don't have a universal healthcare. Also, the problem with Andrew Yang's UBI thing is that I think the issue here, if I remember correctly, was that it was supposed to replace some social safety nets. Which is a no-go for me. If you don't control rents, the landlord is just going to take any UBI. Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah. I mean, like, even without UBI, rent is just, like, way too out of control. With so many social service programs struggling under the weight of bureaucracy and inefficiency, the Chicago area pilot programs are aimed not only at efficiently delivering assistance, but also rescuing citizens' faith in government at a time when democratic principles are being questioned. Mr. Ellington remembered getting his application in at the last moment. One of the 176,000 Chicagoans who had applied in just 3 weeks, he heard back that he had been accepted just days later. The first check arrived within weeks, and because the programs do not count against any other relief efforts like Social Security disability, that $500 is a true income boost. It completely transformed my view of the government, not only in Chicago, but nationally. It gave me an inkling of hope that things are happening. Right. It sets the expectation that they can do this. So, we should be doing more. We should be expecting more of our government. It's like allowing corporations to just buy up all the housing. It's almost like allowing corporations to just buy up all the housing is a bad thing. True. Yep, and foreign speculation in housing. Yep. Cool. That's the whole point. The whole point is that if these things end up being successful, people might start realizing that maybe we can do more. That's the point. All right, folks. It is 8 o'clock. I gotta get out of here and get some food. All right, folks. If you guys enjoyed the content and haven't already, make sure you hit the like button or follow button, I guess. It really does help us out. And you get 6 free emotes, including 2 Bakita the Cat emotes. So I appreciate all the support, all the follows, biddies, subscriptions, all of that. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I appreciate that. If you guys want to take a step forward, that doesn't involve money, you can go to the YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button, as 215 of you have already done so. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Or actually, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. So scratch that. Might be Wednesday? Tomorrow's Tuesday. So we'll be back Wednesday, I want to say. I'll post on the Discord. I'll post it on the Discord tomorrow. So you can join the Discord there to keep up with any updates. SV Harkin, yes. Look at the collection of kitty cats. You've got the Chaps. You've got Winston, of course, and Bakita. There you go. Other countries don't allow it, so they come to the US and buy houses. Yep. And we get screwed. Yep. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I want to say see you tomorrow, but we'll see. Stay tuned on the Discord, or I'll even post it on the Twitter if I need to. All right, folks, as always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Thank you, Michael Hassler. I appreciate that. We're heading to Riverboat Jack's channel. She's a fantastic creator, pretty chill vibes. So let's go over there. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you.